Hey, this is Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting pre-recorded from warm, sunny Colorado. It's a little cold outside, actually, and I got my alpaca poncho on. It's always nice to have a poncho, especially when it comes with a hood. The North American Bitcoin Conference is actually one that means a lot to me. It was a major moment in my professional career. You see, the first time I attended it was January of 2014. And that was a very different time in the cryptocurrency space. The euphoria of a sudden surge from $100 Bitcoin to $1,000 Bitcoin led to a very rowdy event. And that was the event that we ironically chose to announce the Ethereum project at. And I, Vitalik Buterin, Anthony Diorio, Gavin Wood, and others from the project descended upon Miami, having no idea that the project that we were working on would be as meaningful and significant to the space as a whole. The reality was that Ethereum was the project of frustration. We all had come in from either the altcoin space or come from the overlay protocol space, things like master coins and color coins, and in my case, BitShares. And in each of these projects, we were working on them because Bitcoin couldn't simply do the things that we wanted it to do. And so we created Ethereum with the hope of having a moment similar to like when JavaScript came to the web browser. Prior to that, the web browser still worked. You could still go to websites, but they were boring and static. You couldn't really do anything interesting other than display some content. In the case of Bitcoin, you could display some transactions. You could move value around. Perhaps you could use the metadata for somewhat interesting things, but you couldn't have dApps. You couldn't do ICOs. You couldn't issue your own token. You couldn't do DeFi. You couldn't do the truly interesting and useful things that have now changed the landscape of our industry. And so we wanted something different, something better, something unique. And the idea was to be a fun experiment. That was a time long ago, before egos set in and colossal fortunes were made and lost, before books were written, both colorful and slanderous, and before any of us really realized how significant the work that we had could be to so many people. And since that time, I've witnessed the space grow up. Many new people come. Some old friends have left. Some people have died. It's the consequence of age. The world moves on. Now, I left the Ethereum project in June of 2014. I was fired. We had some philosophical differences between the direction to go and obviously some interpersonal and character issues. But at the end of the day, Vitalik was right about the direction of the project, which led to the growth of an incredible ecosystem and one that I think we can all admire in its size and meaningfulness to the industry. Now, I had a very different philosophy about how to build things. And I had a very different philosophy about what this all meant. While they were looking to an experiment, the thing that was nearest and dearest to my heart was the idea of having finance be universally accessible to everyone. I did a TED Talk in 2014 in Bermuda. And I talked about the idea of merging the developing world and the developed world. Over 3 billion people are unbanked or underbanked, and they live in a reality where it's very difficult for them to protect what they have and to be able to accumulate enough wealth to feed their families and thrive, much less survive. And so the point of our industry, in my view, isn't about yield farming, and it isn't about, well, which token is going to go up 10x or how do we get a better interest rate on something. It's much more fundamental and it's much more social. It's all about how do we make a system that is as fair for the richest amongst us as it is the poorest. That's a big deal, and it's near and dear to my heart. How do you make a system where each and every person, regardless if it's Bill Gates, all the way down to a farmer in Senegal, has equal access to identity, property rights, insurance, and voting, and they're using the same system? I firmly believe this is the higher pursuit of our industry, which is why I founded my company, Input Output, back in 2015. It seems like a long time ago. There was just two of us. We were quite poor. But boy, we had a lot of fun, and it's grown now to almost 300 people, and we operate more than 40 countries with both personnel and contracts. And I've personally been to over 50 countries all across the world, every continent except for Antarctica, and one of these days I'll be there too. And despite all that travel, I remain invigorated because we are really making great progress. We've had an office in Ethiopia and Addis Ababa for over 3 years. And we have made great inroads working with emerging government that at times can be frustrating and at times contradictory, but always with a big heart and a desire to do good and help people where and when they can. And we've witnessed a tremendous transformation where we went from education to actual discussion, very specific, precise deals about how do we modernize infrastructure that desperately needs it. And this is a population where 70% is at or under the age of 30, and the vast majority of them are internet enabled and digital natives. They cry out for change, and we as an industry have the ability to give them the change that they need so that they're in charge of their own identity and the own trajectory of their lives. It's a very humbling experience. We saw the same in Mongolia, where more than a third of all the medicine in circulation is in some way adulterated. So if you take an antibiotic, you take aspirin, regardless of the drug, prescription or otherwise, there's a good chance 1 in 3 in the city, and in the rural areas, 1 in 2, that your medicine just simply either doesn't work, it's expired, it's a sugar pill, or it's something perhaps very harmful above and beyond that. These are very real, practical problems. The people don't come to us and say, we'd like a blockchain, we'd like a cryptocurrency, we'd like a token. They come to us and say, please just make sure that the pill that we take actually works. Please make sure that when I vote, my vote actually counts. Please make sure that when I buy land, when I die, my children are actually going to get the deed and it's not going to be stolen out from underneath us. Please make sure that when I accumulate something of value, I can get insurance to protect it so that an event won't wipe everything out, whether that be a fire or a flood or a war. This is a reality that so many people in this world live in. In 2021, an age of wonder, where we have reusable rockets and magic of AI and genetic engineering, and we can make vaccines in under a year. The first time in human history where we have been able to do so much for so many, yet our systems somehow prevent us from distributing them in a fair way. It's a human problem. And that, in my view, is the point of our industry. As I will repeatedly say, I said at TED, and I'll say it here, and I'll say it any place I get invited to speak. The higher pursuit always is, how do we find the way to do these things? Not because they're easy, but because it is the only thing that matters, in my view. It's the right thing to do. It's the hard thing to do. And it's also academically and from an engineering perspective, an incredibly interesting pursuit. Since I founded my company, we've published now 93 papers, and I believe over 10,000 citations. More than half of them have been peer-reviewed at major computer science venues. And we have an interdisciplinary group, not just cryptographers, but programming language experts, game theorists, lawyers, business professionals, sociologists. We might even have a philosopher or two floating somewhere in the stack. And every single one of them is invigorated and passionate over the fact that we can really change everything. It's been incredibly fun to go to Wyoming and witness incredible regulatory change there, thanks to Caitlin Long and Tyler Lindholm and the tireless efforts of many there. And it's been great to see fellow businesses like Kraken join our company in moving to Wyoming so that we can reward that government for its courage in taking those first few steps into an uncertain domain. And what's incredible about it is we as an industry now have a safe harbor within the United States and have a seat at the table about how we should be regulated instead of an adversarial relationship where we hope that we don't get regulated in unproductive ways. Going from a passive to an active participant, it's always a good thing. And it's incredible to be there and witness that. The first full reserve bank, I think, in my lifetime has already been founded, and many more are coming. When we told Ron Paul about this, he didn't actually believe us. He said, that's just not possible. We just don't do those things this way in America. And I said, guess what? We are now. And it's incredible to see that. What also is remarkable is the amount of innovation in this space from all directions and all people. I cannot tell you how many incredible emails I've gotten, how many interesting people have come to me, and bizarre ideas from seasteading to underwater cities. Perhaps some people were playing BioShock to incredible new cryptographic constructs. For example, new snarks, new multi-party computation methods. It doesn't matter if they're academics or Silicon Valley hackers or people trying to figure out the next multi-sided market in Senegal. Doesn't really matter. Each and every one of them is inspired, young and old, to dream again, to innovate again. It's become one global community, one global commons. And that perhaps is one of the greatest features of our industry. We find a way to bring people together. And this is an age of division. This is an age where we hate each other. This is an age where just because people have different values and political beliefs, somehow we call them the other and exile them. I've seen fathers and mothers, grandfathers and grandmothers be exiled from their family because they voted for the wrong political party. I've seen people who have been friends for decades and endured so much together somehow lose touch just because they had a political disagreement. This is an age of division, and to have an industry that thrives on its ability to collaborate, an industry where most of the major innovations of that industry, if not all of them, are given away freely as open source software, patent-free, Creative Commons, is a truly extraordinary thing. Our own company, those 93 papers we've written, every single one of them is in the open domain and freely accessible to all. Most of our competitors cite our papers and in some cases deploy protocols based upon them. And that's okay because we learn from them too. And together we have this amazing Darwinian event where protocols are spawning in a Cambrian explosion, and each and every population is testing the environment. Some are going extinct, but everyone along the way leaves behind a legacy that we all get stronger and learn from. And it inspires us to collaborate. That's a joy. And despite the fact that there may be rivalries and tribalism, and there's certainly a fair share of people in our industry who criticize and say terms like scam coin and shit coin and are maximalist in whatever community they happen to be in, what's nice is those who have that mindset are never rewarded for that mindset. They're always at a competitive disadvantage. So in the long run, they will go extinct and we will get stronger together. It's quite a privilege to know that each and every one of you, regardless if you know our mission or work with us or against us, in your own way, just by pursuing your own interests and your own projects, are building out infrastructure that inevitably, I believe, will contribute to a global commons where each and every one of us enjoy fair systems. That's an incredible thought. And it gives me a bit of hope that for the first time in human history, we can have a new age without a great war, a new age without a great empire, a new age without us having to succumb to our more base natures. And this age will be an age where each and every one of us is in charge of our own destiny, not what we're told by our betters. Pretty special and worth working on. It's been a long time, 8 years in this industry for me. And in many ways, it feels like just the beginning. And in many ways, I feel like an old man, covered in scars. I have a colorful reputation. Some hate me, some love me. But you know what? I'm here fighting every single day, and I enjoy it every single day. And events like this are fun because I can reflect back on the things that we've done and places we've gone and realize that the future is so incredibly bright. I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, some of the most profound problems of our industry are going to be solved. Problems of scalability, problems of governance, problems of interoperability. These will all be the good old problems of the past that we chuckle about, just like we look at the problems of curing old diseases, such as tuberculosis. We say, boy, that was tough back in the day. And now we have a way to take care of it. And it's incredible to know and see that we have those glimmers of hope. And that is a beginning in that once they're solved, we will enjoy the bounties of bringing millions and eventually billions of people into our industry. So thank you for coming to this event. It's a special event to me. It's a meaningful event to the industry. And while it is just an event, it is good to see that it keeps going strong and thriving. I'd like to thank Mo for continuing to put it on and inviting me to come and speak. I guess I still have a few interesting things to say. And I'd like to invite you to a new world, a decentralized one, and hopefully we're all better for it. Cheers.